So a recent Business Insider article was highlighting a current challenge employers are having. The concept is a derivative of a previous challenge called quiet quitting. So there was a whole trend that was happening where employers were struggling with people who were quietly quitting their jobs because they were disengaged, dissatisfied, or burnt out, and then jumped to another job. Well, right now, the challenge that has transformed from quiet quitting to quiet cracking. Now, upon understanding the nature of both of those dynamics, it's essentially the same subset of human beings, employees, that were doing the quiet quitting. What dictates the difference between quiet quitting and quiet cracking is the economic landscape. Jobs are harder to find right now as it was when it was doing quiet quitting. And so that's why it's called quiet cracking. Now, the concept behind quiet cracking is people are quietly burning out. They're still doing the best they can to do their job, right? But then inside they're just disengaged, burning out. And of course, what that then impacts is productivity. The article highlights a recent Gallup poll of the disengagement and engagement of employees worldwide. And for the first time or the second time in 12 years, productivity or engagement has dropped by 2%, which means that it's costing global economy due to employee disengagement and productivity and performance issues around $830 something billion. Okay, so it's a significant problem. Now, one of the things that we do at HumanOp to understand that, to help our clients with that, is all around engagement, is all around performance. But the reason why this quiet quitting or the quiet cracking is happening is oftentimes for leaders and employers that care, is that they're having people work in jobs doing tasks that are not necessarily in alignment with them. Now, there are those who aren't quiet about it, and those are different types of what we like to call vehicles. They're more active, okay? So there's two types of traits that live in every human being. There's active traits and there's passive traits. Now, if you can imagine, the ones who are quietly burning out, quietly disengaging, or quietly quitting, those tend to be the more passive ones. The ones you don't obviously notice that something is going on. They do their best to stay under the radar, okay? They are often driven by certain drivers that don't require the spotlight. They don't need to be out in open. And if they're in a job or they have tasks on there that require them to constantly be around a lot of people and they're not driven that way, it starts to create burnout. It starts to create fatigue. And because they're passive by nature, they start to quietly quit or quietly crack, okay? So the reason why I wanted to talk about this is that there is a very simple way to address this. And it's not about changing them to a different job or having them find a different job or whatever the case may be, because that's oftentimes what happens. Some of the things that they suggested was to have leaders check in with hey, your performance, which is based on KPIs and non-human measurement points, right? In terms of, they just measure the productivity. So we notice the quality of your work is right. Is everything okay? Which is fine. The problem with people who quietly quit or quietly crack is that they either may not know what is going on, and that's why they're being quiet about it, or they're not the type of people to feel safe sharing about what's really going on underneath. And even if they have trust, and even if they know the leader, if they feel that the leader doesn't really see, hear, or understand them from a human-to-human standpoint, asking that question will not produce the results that leaders are typically looking for. So what we want to make sure we do is, if they are using the HumanOp technology and if they're able to kind of access and understand the active and passivity, the active nature or the passive nature of that human being, we can start to get to understand the way to fix this quiet cracking problem is to reevaluate and maybe even shuffle some things around what the individuals are doing that is contributing to the depletion of energy or the disengagement or their burnout. I would say 80-90% of the time when we work with clients that are dealing with disengagement or burnout, is because they're undertasking or overtasking individuals, or they're having their employees doing tasks that go against their nature. And while they can learn to do it and they can be trained to do it, it doesn't mean they are naturally designed to do it, which means as time goes on, it's going to continuously fatigue them, even though they were trained to do it well or well enough. But we all know long-term sustainability of talents and skills in an organization is what keeps an organization growing. And so this quiet cracking or this quiet quitting, both are the same subset of human beings within an organization. You can't ignore that, because that is going to have a direct impact on the ability for any organization to grow and create any level of success due to productivity and sustainable performance. When burnout gets in the mix, this is what happens. And so for those that are dealing with that, we have the simple solution for it. And now it may require a little bit of a subtle overhaul in terms of how we approach assigning tasks to certain people, but I guarantee it is 100% worth it when you have a human being that is dealing with quiet quitting or quiet cracking, and you start to trim the tasks that are contributing to the fatigue and disengagement, have them only doing things that are naturally aligned with them, that naturally lights them up, still in the context of the work they're supposed to be doing. That's when we start fixing the problem. So wanted to share that a little bit about this whole quiet cracking thing that's going on. No different than the quiet quitting. It's just depending on the economic landscape. Hope you found that helpful.